In this special series of Afternoon Large, you'll hear from participants in our Menzies Early Career Network, a program for university students to learn, research, publish on a topic of Australian contemporary history and liberal thought. The students' essays will be published in a new book, Menzies Rediscovered, a new generation's inspiration for political philosophy, domestic challenges and foreign affairs, in March 2026. Today I'm joined by Mary Coleman, who wrote an essay as part of our Menzies Early Career Network on civic virtue in a technological age. And Mary has just finished her Bachelor of Arts at the Liberal Arts College in Western Sydney, Campion College. So congratulations on graduating, Mary, and congratulations on your chapter for the book Menzies Rediscovered.
Thank you so much, Georgina. It's very exciting.
Yeah. Well, tell me, why did you want to participate in the Menzies Early Career Network?
Well, the way I first heard about it was actually Campion College, the university that I just graduated from, actually promoted it from one of our history lecturers. And yeah, he popped it up on the board, said if anyone's interested. And we had quite a few applicants actually, but 2 of us from the college got in, which is very exciting. And I suppose the experience that I got out of it is actually, there are many, many elements to it. Aside from networking with a lot of just amazing, young, like-minded people who all have awesome passions in politics or history, but all that real curiosity about Menzies and what he taught. I actually studied him very briefly, half a lecture, maybe 10 minutes of a lecture for Australian history, one of the units offered at Campion College. And in that, I actually was quite fascinated by him, among many other prime ministers, but I liked the way that his understanding and his social and political thought was very practical. So I think that is the experience that I got out of it, not only learning about Menzies, but then how his social thought and his thought that was influenced by many other great thinkers as well, how that actually can be translated into modern day society.
Yeah, and I think Menzies as a leader and obviously a founder of a political party and an architect of a political philosophy, there was much more morality in his speeches and political ideas than you perhaps get today in political speeches, which tend to be very technocratic and managerialist.
Very much so. He said some things that, like you said, we could not get away with today. Direct comparison in his actual political speech. He's able to say things that speak to, like I said before, the practical needs of Australians. And even though politicians do like to do that today, and they do very much try, there's so many different topics that have become almost tapping into the cancel culture of things. You know, there's a real sensitivity about saying the wrong thing, but not for Menzies, I think, particularly in that time where there was a technological revolution, you could call it. There was a real technological advancement in so many different areas, and it's led to the digital modern age that we're living in today. But he really was able to capture some really critical and poignant things that were happening in society and highlighting his warnings as well. And my focus was, on technology. So he had many other things that he liked to talk about, but the media was a particular interest of his in many of his speeches. So,
he didn't really like the media. I thought your chapter was really interesting. I think it is incredibly interesting given the debates we're having around AI and social media ban and how technology interferes or can potentially interfere with a way of thinking, even the way our brains and neural pathways are developing. All of this is a challenge to human agency and morality and ethics. So I can see this was a really, really, really fun, topical topic. But tell me in your own words, what attracted you to this topic of the intersection of technology and Menzies social thought?
Well, many, many things actually. I have a business in social media. I do content creation. So I really had a personal passion for the topic. I love the idea of technology and using it wisely. I think that technology, this is actually what Menzies thought as well. You know, technology is good when it is subordinate to moral and civic ends. So it's always about the means and thinking about the ends and that whole debate of whether the means justify the ends, etc. But I really was drawn to it because I do post on social media. I have businesses. I manage and coach people on social media. And I love artificial intelligence. I really do. I think that's something.
So do I. I mean,
it's great.
ChatGPT is my best friend.
Right. I had to say good morning to it every day.
Yeah. It knows me well now.
It's true.
Too well.
Almost too well.
Yeah.
But there's a real way we can harness technology and artificial intelligence to bring out the good and to really, like I said, be subordinate to moral and civic virtue. So I think that's what really attracted me to the topic. I just had a personal passion for it and I wanted to work it in when I actually submitted my proposal. I was told by my history lecturer that it's not relevant to Menzies. He focuses on the media and he didn't have technology. And, very stubbornly, I said, I will work in technology with Menzies. And I found that there's actually many links.
Oh, yeah.
But he just had, because he wasn't living in the time with artificial intelligence. He was living in the time of the technological age, which was more the airplanes were coming in and radio and the media and broadcast. And so different, you would call them more traditional, old school forms, but that wasn't even 100 years ago, that was brought in. So how time flies. But it was really linking his passion and my passion and kind of bringing them together.
Yeah, fantastic. And I think one of the key words you used at the beginning of your answer to that question was wise, to use it wisely. And I mean, that's loaded, right? How are you wise? How do you develop wisdom? What is wisdom? I mean, these are fundamental questions that don't, ChatGPT could give us an answer, might be quite a good answer. But if you are without any technology and in a moment and you have to make those decisions yourself, you need to have been armed with a moral code, an idea of, as you were saying, civic virtue. So tell me though, Mary, what were the key scientific advancements that informed the Menzies era and how do they compare to today?
Great question, Georgina. In my chapter, actually right in my introduction, I actually speak about, I guess, just the Anglophone world generally in Menzies' time. So there was scientism that was prevailing, and that was essentially the belief that scientific methods offered the highest and sometimes the only legitimate path to knowledge. And this impacted things like public policy and education and cultural aspiration. So Menzies was really living this time where, I guess, the humanities were being neglected a little bit and, if anything, merged with the sciences. And it created this huge divide between the two where people would choose one or the other and trying to merge them together. How does humanities and the sciences, how does it work in conjunction with one another? And the understanding of the humanities in their traditional form. So the study of philosophy and theology or history, the critical thinking skills, which funnily enough, I have just done a 3-year degree on. So it was really interesting again, looking at Menzies' thought, tying it into my studies and then the passion of technology. So it really was a fun chapter. I had actually so much fun writing it just because it sparked a lot of philosophical thought in my own life as well. But in Menzies' time, I guess it was very important to look at moral and civic character and how it was being developed. If you're focusing on science as the only means to truth in that way and kind of devoid of anything of critical thinking or the more traditional humanities side of it, how does that, I guess, impact the national character, the virtue of citizens in Australia and obviously throughout the world? So Menzies was witnessing this technological revolution, like I said before, and that was accelerated by World War II. So there was an overflow of ammunition from the war. And then, we see the development of the airplane, or when I say we, I mean Menzies in his time, saw the development of the airplane and then bombing cities and being used for warfare. So it was something really good and exciting in the technological advancement and then being used for total evil and destruction. So it was very new and horrifying, I think, quite concerning for a lot of the people living in Menzies' era. So that's why he really questioned how can we work in science with the humanities and really ensuring that moral and civic virtue, which is just things like being a good citizen in society. Moral and civic virtue might sound very, fancy or abstract words, but it really is just how can you best contribute to society? How does your family and your life raise you? And how can you then contribute back? So that cycle where you actually are making a meaningful contribution, whether that is giving like donations and service and charity and work, or just working your job like you're supposed to and paying taxes. Really simple things, but something that you can see today where we're using artificial intelligence that actually takes over a lot of the necessary formation for character, especially amongst young people, which I'll probably get to a little bit later. Some insane statistics on just how much the youth have declined in Australia with the rise of technology.
Yeah. The productivity enhancements, the increase in productivity during the Menzies era was incredible. We haven't seen that in recent history, but the potential of AI, may deliver similar productivity growth. But Menzies was pretty concerned though about this sort of idea of utilitarianism, which Australia is often described as a Benthamite society. What's best for the majority will be best for the country, and even if it's 50.01% in favour versus 49.999% against. It's the utilitarian mindset that holds sway, and I think he thought that this sort of scientific and material advancement and utilitarian approach was really impacting on ability to advance in a moral way, in an ethical way.
For sure. The idea of utilitarianism in and itself kind of, I suppose, reduced mankind to pleasure seeking, that very individualistic pleasure seeking animal. So I was speaking about this in my chapter, how it kind of almost enslaves humans to technology, and they're governed by technology to be indifferent to things that, are civic or anything of a higher culture, or even the spiritual dimensions of life, because obviously technology doesn't have a soul, and that whole understanding of, really if you need to be a rational human being and you need to use logic, but then also, gut feeling and the cool psychology behind the gut to brain axis and all of those things, that your body instinctively actually talks and tells you things and gives you warning signs that you don't realize. And if you are stripped of that and you become numb to that because technology is taking over all your decision making, it's really dangerous. And I think when you apply the idea of utilitarianism and that utilitarian outlook specifically into education and policy, I suppose it sort of justifies the big fancy words here, but technocratic governance and vocational priorities. And it reduces, like I said, citizens to a unit, and it kind of becomes this quantifiable measure, their output, and it becomes almost this algorithm of person, and then what is their efficiency and how much can they produce, therefore what is their outcome and what is the maximum outcome. And then you sort of start to weigh and scale people based on how much they're going to produce, and it's their output rather than the means. So it is that the ends is outweighing the means, which shouldn't really be the case. You should really be thinking about the means that you're going about something, and then obviously producing, a good output, a good end, but at what cost? So I think Menzies was a super strong advocate of civic and moral development. He, suggested those practical needs to Australian society, particularly in this idea. And he just over and over and over again, all the speeches I read, of which there were many, he continuously just said that technological advancement and economic prosperity, they do not eclipse the cultivation of civic virtue. Cultural responsibility in society is really important.
And of course, in order to cultivate civic virtue, you did that through education, the guidance of your parents, of people around you. And he had a wonderful conception of a liberal education and what that should afford our citizens so that they could become critical thinkers, engaged citizens, moral and ethical citizens as well. And I think we'd both agree that the education system today does not have, probably excluding universities like the one you just attended, but don't have a real focus on, after 3-4 years of your degree, having graduated, a moral, engaged citizen. It is, you did a commerce degree, you did an arts degree, you did a science degree, tick, you went through the sort of subjects, but there's not a sense of cultivating a citizenry, which I think is a great shame. How do you think Menzies would have understood the rise of AI and the online algorithms? Total hypothetical, of course. He's been dead for 47 years, but have a go.
I reckon he did love technology. Like I said before, he just needed it to be subordinate to, like you said, the formation of education. And we shouldn't be using it to replace things that are really essential to our character. So I think he actually would have liked it. Bit of a hot take, but I think he wouldn't have minded it. But he definitely would have said that if you mistake technological power for genuine human progress, then that is a huge red flag run away. I think he would have liked the automation of artificial intelligence, the fact that it was able to create a lot of things more efficiently, production and systems and software that actually kind of were a waste of time because you could be doing better things. But if they kind of reduced or got rid of personal responsibility or independent judgment, which unfortunately AI does. I mean, I've seen these videos of people using ChatGPT as their therapist, which is very interesting.
Pretty dangerous.
Very much so, especially because the whole coding of it is actually built to affirm and support the whole time, which is therapy, but that's not actual real help. And we need human connection to really grow. So, and to understand ourselves, we can't rely on a system that actually isn't human, even though it could try to be its best, it will actually always fall short. So I think with artificial intelligence, especially because its use primarily now, I would say, is to actually replace independent judgment and thought. He wouldn't have liked that. But the concept of artificial intelligence and the fact that it would help with productivity and efficiency in very limited sense is really good. I think he would have probably cautioned that AI, if you are using it for decision-making skills, to avoid it completely, really, and to really use your own critical thought. But as long as you kind of are achieving good moral ends and ethical accountability and all of those things, then by all means, technology and artificial intelligence is great. So
fantastic. Well, I like your hot take, Mary. Congratulations on your chapter. I think it's unique, really original, and I think your history lecturer has been proved very much wrong. I suspect I know who he was. And I'm sure he's happy to be proved wrong. He's a good sort of critical thinker himself.
Indeed.
Thank you so much for being part of the Menzies Early Career Network and joining me on Afternoon Light.
Thank you so much, Georgina. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to this special series of Afternoon Light, featuring interviews with participants in the 2025 Menzies Early Career Network. To follow more of our work, make sure you subscribe to this podcast and explore our other content at the Robert Menzies Institute website, robertmenziesinstitute.org.au.